All right. You're the only one on, so here's our call.
Oh, hey, how's it going? Well, welcome. We're about to start the Homesheet. Chad's about to move across here and get his chair. Having a little bit of technical difficulties, so just throw me on here by myself like that.
Well, I mean, I couldn't. Didn't think we were going to have those problems. But, oh, one. Okay. That's really, really off. So, okay. Well, can you have my iPad?
Yeah.
Over there? So I'm gonna get stuff kicked on over here. So we're finally live.
Welcome. We're about to start the Homesheet. Chad's about to move across here and get his chair.
Okay. Well, can you have my iPad?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got it going. I also think it's like technical difficulties all.
Yeah.
So, but let us know if you are not getting the if the audio is not linked up. That seems kind of funny, but we're gonna roll with it. So.
It's like that. What is it? The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a fantastic movie, but the audio file's not synced up.
Really?
Yeah, at least on the DVD I had.
Well, it's because it's dubbed.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, those were all dubbed. They're called spaghetti westerns because they filmed them in Spain. Those were all European released movies originally.
Okay.
So the English on top of it's dubbed.
The more you know. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's like kung fu movies.
So
Where like the audio's always off, they keep on talking, or they stop talking. Yeah. So even though it was American actors, it was all completely.
So Clint Eastwood did that in like Italian or Spanish or.
No, but since they shot it to be dubbed.
Oh, okay.
It's the same thing with the first Mad Max movie.
Okay.
Actually, the first two Mad Max movies, Mel Gibson's accent was so bad they couldn't understand them in English, and they went back and redubbed them once Mel Gibson's like Australian accent was not as bad. So yeah, the more you know. We did not expect to talk about dubbing stuff on.
I feel like you're always like 3 steps from being able to talk about Mad Max, though.
I am always 3 steps away from being able to talk about Mad Max, so that's a very real thing. But yeah, well, we'll get trucking. So.
Sorry, that was gold right there.
Austin just commented, confused Jack.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing, Jack. Honestly, like, dude, Austin, when are you gonna come do this Homesheet? Like,
you know what? Normally Tuesday's his day off, so he could have come today.
Dude,
but he's having to work today.
he is having to work today.
And we don't normally do this on Tuesdays.
No, we don't normally do this on Tuesdays. But I feel like we can make an exception for Austin.
I think Austin might have a little bit of a fun on here. So, well, what's up? Glad some of y'all are popping in. If you're watching, make sure you say hey in the comments so we know you're there. But let's just get going. Jack, what'd you think about this? A little bit different from a Sunday.
Dude, I really enjoyed the message. Like, it was really good, and I'm glad you're just like we're able to do that, and also like lead worship.
It was a full day.
It was a full day.
It was a full day.
Yeah.
So Madeline said that she says, Chad, that passage wasn't. She said that was a very normal passage for you to preach on.
Mm-hmm. It was very basic pastor. Very basic pastor passage.
Yeah. Betsy, what's up? We got Lauren Broussard. Lauren, you doing all right down there? Lauren is down in Lake Charles.
Yep.
I was texting with her yesterday. Just hold up. Lauren, we're praying for you. Hope you're doing all right. So, but let's just get trucking. So,
yeah. So our first question for today is: think of a time where it seemed you couldn't do enough to make something work. What did that feel like?
I mean, I just think that's a very big realization I think people come to sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, like I remember just in college, just like I never felt like I could do enough to stay ahead of the game, and just like I just always felt like I was drowning.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is because it was the mustard seed passage, and it was the idea of are you getting more or are you growing more? There's a very different thing with that. I mean, I can think of a lot of times, but really it's just like what happens when you get to a point where you realize you have to make a mid-course correction.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't get to the point to where they're able to make that decision, and they just kind of end up settling for they're settling.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I remember when I was in college, I was trying to like, I felt like I was buried, and I kept trying to do stuff, and I was feeling horrible. And a buddy of mine said, when you're buried, that doesn't mean like you're a failure. That just means you're planted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, like if we look at this next question, is did you grow through it?
Yeah, I think that's also the big thing is what does it mean to look back and realize when something like that happened and you grew through it instead of just settling. And I think I always talk about it's just important to mark these things in life and what happens when we mark something like that. So
yeah. No, this next question does kind of like hit me in the gut a little bit because it's like, did you grow through it or end up leaving the situation? Because I think a lot of my faith was built around, God's going to get me out of bad situations.
Yeah.
Instead of he's going to pull me through those situations.
Yeah. And then I think just finding your own personal agency inside of it. Like, what are you doing? What do we realize that's happening? Because I think we can all get so frustrated with the spiritual life sometimes because like, why is God not doing this? Why is God not doing this? Why is God... Scripture doesn't say God's going to do these things. Scripture says God's going to give you the power to do things. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of just moving from like some bland cultural understanding of what Jesus wants to do to a biblical understanding. It's like, I'm going to empower you to do these things. So it's not just to sit around and wait. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, and I like that kind of like... the undertone of that is like that relationship that you have with him is very important because if you don't have a strong relationship there, like that's not gonna you're not gonna have that power to get through those situations.
Yeah. What's up, Pepper? So Jack, what about finding those insignificant things that grow into important things?
I think. And this has come up in a couple conversations lately, is just like, you used to talk about how the first drive of your morning, you would turn off the radio, and like that was just like your time to be quiet, your time to pray, your time to just like, like you're driving, you're doing something, but you're also just kind of like being still.
Yeah.
And so like having time like that, just, it might be, like 5 minutes, but where I actually I turn my music off and I'm just like, no, I'm not going to touch my phone. I'm not going to do anything. I've noticed that over time that has helped me just like significantly. Yeah,
I think that it's what to realize where he's been, and I think that's the biggest thing is learning. And I feel like there's some version of this question on the home sheet every week, but it's also just incredibly important. I feel like to be able to mark and say, this is where God is doing things in my life.
Yeah. And just being like the awareness. Yeah, I like that. So do you feel as though you are looking for God to implant big things in your life? Pastor Chad.
I'm not about to Jack. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, this makes me think back to the conversation we had when I graduated college and I finished my internship up at the Wesleys. Like, do you think God would have brought you this far just to leave you?
And I think that realization right there is the thing that so many times that we don't think about. Now, I think we also can get a little bit broken on it, and where we think that, okay, I can kind of do whatever I want, so I don't need to think about this. Because I think that's a very dangerous place to be in Scripture. I mean, I think the Scripture shows that if we deny the actions and activities of God long enough, then God's activities and actions are going to quit happening. But I think there's also the other side of that is God's like, I've not done all these things, so this thing that's causing you an incredible amount of anxiety right now at this moment will cause you to fail.
Yeah. So I do feel like I'm looking, though, for God to implant big things in my life because, whether it's small groups or whether it's youth, I don't want, my heart and my desire for those students. And this isn't for myself. This isn't for, like, so I could have, like, a, crown on my head or anything like that. But it's like, I want the big things of my life to be them succeeding and going out and just rocking it.
Well, sooner or later we get to the point in time in our life where we realize it's not about us.
Yeah.
And I think that one of these, part of another get more or grow more situation is what happens when we begin saying, I have received all I need to receive in this life.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's time for me to cause that to happen in the life of other people.
Yeah.
And for so many of us, I don't think that's an attitude that we come to in the last 5 years of our life. I really do think that's a point that we get to when we're significantly younger than we expect.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just such a problem with finding enough satisfaction in life
Mm-hmm.
to where we never are able to get to that point, and we miss out on just so many things.
Yeah, and I like just that awareness part of it just changes so many things, because you said, I don't know if it was last Sunday or the Sunday before last, but you're talking about the golden rule.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just basically said the golden rule is like, I'm not going to do this to you so you don't do it to me. It's, hey, I want your life to be as awesome as I want my life to be.
Yeah. There's a reciprocity.
Yeah.
To it that's just fundamental for us to understand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's go to like some of the discipleship practices.
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
So create space this week to investigate matters of your heart. What are some matters of your heart, Chad?
Oh, I think kind of this goes back to I'm sitting inside of the comment thread right now. So I think that it's important for us to realize that our hearts matter to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And that if we do have things that are burdening our hearts that we feel are stopping us, or I think it's important for us to make those into places of prayer, not just like to name that, but like, hey, this is weighing very heavily on me. I'm going to spend focused time in prayer on that. And I'm going to make a note of it and spend multiple days in prayer about that.
Yeah. That's so I love the idea of wrestling with something in the presence of God.
Mm-hmm.
Of just the honesty. Like, so I read through the Psalms one year in a month, and it was like every morning and every night. And what it taught me was how to talk to God.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the way they talk to God is like insane. They're like, hey, I want you to go melt this guy's face off real quick for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, did I just read that in the Bible? Like,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, one of the, like, whenever I have like turmoil and stuff in my life, it eventually gets to the point where I just like sit down, I take the time, I seek God, and I wrestle with him, and like I just bring it all out. And he's like, well, why didn't you do this in the first place?
Exactly.
And
yeah.
So like I'm slowly doing that a little bit quicker before I hit rock bottom.
But there's also something, like you said, there's something about wrestling with God when you're in the presence of God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that I've only really begun to understand in the last couple of years, is that we have such a disjointed relationship with God sometimes that we struggle to be inside the presence of God. Mm-hmm. And it's inside the presence of God that things actually begin to happen. And so when we begin to learn what is it like to be in the presence of God, even when things are gnarly or tough or that sort of thing, and once we get even into that spot, then we begin to bring those things to Him. And I feel like that there's just so much more of a push and pull into our own personal lives, go back into our personal worship conversation, that we realize that when we never even get to that point, we never even get to see that power. Versus realizing, okay, this is what life is like when I've eliminated the things that are stopping me from seeing the presence of God. Yeah. So you get into the whole moral piece there, you get into the holiness conversation, that sort of thing. And then once I'm through that level of places and those things, then I can be inside of the presence of God, and I can do tough work personally inside of the presence of God.
Mm-hmm. And so we just I just wrapped up a emotionally healthy spirituality course with a group of people, and it was fantastic. We had a lot of great conversations. But for me, even running through it the second time, I was someone who always bottled his emotions up.
Yeah.
And so being able to actually like unpack a lot of that and like have just the full range of emotion in front of God, like you just said, just being able to he can't work in that if you don't let him work in that, right? Like if you don't bring all of that to him, you're not going to see blessings inside of that. You're not going to see change inside of that. So just bringing all of that to him is just like fantastic.
Yeah. What else?
Where are you doing things that you feel are inside of your call, but seem to be hitting a brick wall?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just so much of this week it's going to be tough to answer these questions, I feel like, if we're not into deep spaces with God. Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, I hate to be like this, like kind of like blunt about it or whatever, but like if we're not in a deep place with God, we're going to be continually frustrated with our life with God and with Scripture, because it's going to see these things and we're not going to see these things in our own life. We're not going to have our own personal experience, and it ends up causing a lot of doubt because we say, hey, I don't see this thing you talk about, but we've not done the things to get to that spot.
Yeah.
Like we're still just like barely circling around it. It's like when you're a kid and you play house. Mm-hmm. It's very different from being an adult and having to learn how to actually pay bills. We just play house, and we never see the reciprocal benefits of responsibility and of planning and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, so if we're just playing house with Jesus, we're not going to get to this place. So we need to quit playing house. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the way around it.
So the next one says, take 5 minutes each day this week to listen to God. So put on some calming music, set a timer on your phone, and be still. So like, what are some tips for you? Because like I remember when I started to try running long distance, running for 45 seconds or jogging for 45 seconds used to be this huge mountain. But eventually, running for 10 minutes was like easy.
Yeah.
So how do we kind of get from like just this like, oh man, I can't sit still for 30 seconds?
I think we start with 5 minutes.
We start with 5 minutes?
I think we start with 5 minutes. I mean, it's going to take your heart that long to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we just build up these spaces in our life to learn to be still, to learn to listen, to, you know, it's like we make jokes about throwing on William Augusto.
Yeah.
And it's just learn to be. And we need that in our own life, much less learning to do that inside of prayer.
Yeah.
But just learning to stop and to listen. And how many times has God wanted to tell us things, but we can't hear it because we don't shut our mouth?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like used to, before like I got into like the Lecto 365 or like anything Pete Gregg has written, I always felt like me sitting down and praying is I was having to pray for other people instead of that space just being like me being with God. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like that was a huge transformational piece for myself. Yeah. Like honestly.
Yeah. We need to learn to be with God.
Yeah.
And it's learning to be with God where we begin to see the fruitfulness of this way of life.
Okay. So next we have make a note each day of where you see Jesus in your life. It might be personally, it might be through the actions or words of someone else.
We just got to note when Jesus is doing things.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say, like, let's say over the past week or two, what would be something that you've written down?
I mean, I think of conversations with people a lot of times. I think of when I write down things that tell me that stuff is different than the way the own like anxiousness or voice in my head might say things sometimes. Mm-hmm. I write down things that people have been impacted by. Like that's what I write. That's the kind of stuff I write down.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, like small group last night and just the conversations and just like seeing people grow and seeing people say like, oh hey, like this is an area I'm seeing Jesus starting to work in my life.
Yeah.
Is I mean that's like I wrote that down because that was huge.
Yeah. Awesome.
Right on.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thanks for coming and hanging out at the Homesheet rundown. We do this every week. Mm-hmm. Hopefully on Monday, sometimes on Tuesday. But I think I'm going to have to bring somebody else in. Jack's can be out.
Special guest star next week.
Yeah, special guest star next week. Jack's can be out with the youth on the canoe trip. So I'm going to find somebody else to come and run through the ringer. Mm-hmm. Got a good idea, though. But so thanks for coming to the Homesheet rundown. Go download. I dropped the link into the comments. And we'd love just to engage with you as we follow Jesus together. See y'all later.
All right, y'all have a good one.